And we're live with Matt Klier. What's up, Matt?
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So you are the owner-operator of the Active Shooter Defense School.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we opened 2013 right here in San Diego. We travel nationwide, and primarily we teach firearms and self-defense. We have our partner, which is Krav Maga San Diego, Krav Maga Academy San Diego, right here in Kearney Mesa. That's where our boxing and fight gym and jiu-jitsu and all the neat stuff that everybody should be learning right now. That's where we're located.
Now, you have a military background.
I do. I spent 12 and a half years in the Navy. I was a combat engineer, aka CB, if you've ever heard of them. Luckily enough, I screened for, and I was able to attach to the SEAL teams. Still a CB, not a SEAL. And we had a great time. I did a few deployments and had a lot of I spent 9 years with them out of the 12 and a half.
Wow.
And they needed mechanics, and I was a mechanic, so it worked out. It was a great relationship.
That's awesome. Now, in teaching this, obviously we've had, I don't know if what to call it, but it started in the late 90s, it seemed like. The Columbine shooting was the first real...
I think you're right. The Columbine was the first mass media active shooter situation where maybe it wasn't... where we were caught off guard with why they were doing it. Why would they go in and shoot up a school? What's going on there? We hadn't seen anything of that level of violence in a long time.
And that one, I know a lot of the intricate details of that one because in my journalistic studies in high school, I spent 4 years in the radio and TV program, and that happened to be, I believe, my junior year, which was my field reporting year. And so I actually still have the VHS tape of the story I did on the Columbine shooting. But I did a tremendous amount of research on it, and it was just such an unbelievable thing. I mean, we just couldn't believe the stuff that we were seeing, the stories that we were hearing about, the intricate moments that took place in there. And no one definitely caught everyone off guard.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was a horrible tragedy, and what the motives, I mean, I don't know if we want to touch on that just yet. But the motives behind it all seem to have some similarities, and similarities that we see is it's predominantly white males that are causing this issue. It's usually the person that's been picked on. It's usually the person that maybe doesn't fit in and has had years of mental and sometimes physical abuse that leads up to these situations. And that, I think, is what sparked the Columbine incident.
Yeah, there was definitely, and people were trying, we searched for that for a long time, the why. And today we're going to talk a lot about, you know, what do you do if you find yourself in one of these situations?
Right.
But I think it's important to sort of set the stage how we got to this point, and Columbine was definitely a big one, and there were a lot of speculation. That was the big question, especially on the journalistic side, was why? What was, did they tell us why? And they were just sort of mad at everyone. You know, they had left some little breadcrumbs of, you know, these are the way we feel about these people. We hate this person, we hate that person, we don't like this person. It was kind of, okay, well then why? And we kind of keep asking that question.
Right.
And we have seen a lot of those things. There's also been some things that have been less explainable, less straightforward than that one. Needless to say, it continues to be the case that in these situations, the individual, the shooter, has an extreme advantage in the
100%.
situation. I mean,
100%.
Extreme advantage. So how do you prepare yourself mentally, tactically, for a situation like that where the assailant has such a dramatic advantage?
Mentally, you know, I don't think you can. You know, I mean, as a vet, you know, we have plenty of time to mentally prepare to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, and just kind of adjust with the fact that you may not come home. You know, and then it still doesn't prepare you for the first time you get shot at. So how can you mentally prepare? I don't think you can. You know, you can't you know, get any better at getting kicked in the balls. If you get kicked in the balls every day, it's still going to hurt just as bad. You know, so
we have to ask Steve-O that question.
Yeah, right. Maybe you should focus on how to avoid getting kicked in the balls. You know, and that's kind of where we come in. And you know, the motive is one thing, but what happens when somebody busts through that door with a firearm? What can you do? The federal law enforcement guidelines put out run, hide, fight. Everybody, I think, at this point has heard that, and it's so simple. It's spectacular, and you can keep that simplicity in the back of your mind. as to what to do. When we were kids, we had stop, drop, roll. Remember that one?
Yeah.
For if you could ever get caught on fire. And I'm 44 years old, and I still remember that if I'm on fire, I'm going to stop, drop, and roll. So as long as we keep repeating run, hide, fight, hopefully it'll pop into your mind what you need to do at that time. What we see, even in our training scenarios, is if we go in there and we shoot off a blank firearm, you know, maybe by the receptionist. We come in by your receptionist, we go pow, 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 and the human being wants to immediately investigate. Everybody in the office comes, what the hell was that? And they just basically walk to their death. And they walk out and they see what's going on, especially if we don't prep them with the fact that we're going to have an active shooter drill and we're maybe working with the upper echelon of the company. We come in and do this, and then we say, okay, well, you're dead, and you're dead, and you're dead. Who actually ran out of the back? And it's slim to none. Wow. And that's the scary part. You know, and gunshots sound a lot like somebody hitting two pieces of wood together. You know, you don't, in an office with the echoes and everything, especially in a sound studio, you wouldn't be able to decipher exactly that it was gunshots, because if you did, you would run out the back door.
You're just saying that if you hear a gunshot in an office setting or in a theater setting, it doesn't sound, you know, it may sound like clapping two boards together, and people will want to investigate it, walk towards it, which is not the right thing.
Which is a very dangerous thing. Obviously, we're ignoring the run part, and that's what we find in these scenarios that we teach in office buildings and stuff like that, when they don't know that we're coming, and obviously the boss knows we're there, and the important people know we're there, and so what we run into is that curiosity. And curiosity killed the cat. So what are you up against? I mean, if you run out the back door when you hear somebody do something like that, I mean, the worst you're going to see, if it wasn't an active shooter, is the fact that you'll be a little bit embarrassed for overreacting. And I'll take a little bit of embarrassment over getting shot in the face any day of the week.
Yeah.
And so I think we just need to change that mentality. And number one, run. Okay. If I'm 20 feet from a guy with a tiny pistol, there's nothing I can do if I'm not armed. There's nothing that I'm going to be able to do other than hope he misses. So even if I'm in the situation and an active shooter comes right through that door right now, I'm going to say, where is the exit? And that's where I'm going to go. Now, after that, whether you are a CCW holder or you have a gun in your car, I mean, you know, these are all decisions that you know, can you do something? Probably. Police officer average response time, I think 6 minutes they had it down to on this last one, and that's pretty good. The nice thing is we've changed our tactics. I was a police officer for 8 years, if you didn't add that part in there. And then we've changed from waiting for the SWAT team to allowing the first officers on scene to make the choice whether or not they're going to go in. And it's all up to the individual officer. If he hears a fully automatic weapon and possibly 2 or 3 of them, it would be absolutely insane for one officer with a Glock or even an AR-15 to go in there unassisted. But if he hears, you know, something similar of a Glock or a pistol shot or something that he can identify, well, then he can make that choice whether he's going to wait for another 2 or 1 or if he wants to go in alone. We've seen a lot of officers be 100% successful. There's a great YouTube video with the lady that's filming. She hid in the conference room while the active shooter was going on with a camera. The officer came in and almost shot her, called her an idiot, and then went out and shot the bad guy. And he was the lone officer and took care of that entire show. So,
where was that one?
You know, that's a great question. Probably should have brought the link for that one. I'll find it.
You can send it to me. We'll
I'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll post
it. So that alone has significantly decreased the casualty rate, you know, rather than it being 60 or I don't even know what Columbine was. Do you have the number?
I don't remember what Columbine was, but it wasn't that many. I think it was 20-ish.
Well,
and there was, I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to downplay that by any means, but it wasn't, it could have been much worse. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
The tactical advantage they had, as much ammunition as they brought in, it was actually a miracle. I remember we kept saying that it was a miracle that only this many people were killed because of their intent going in, which we discovered very quickly, the amount of ammunition that they had.
Yep.
And actually the number of people they shot a lot of people who made it.
Right. So here's a neat statistic, okay? And 80% of pistol shooting victims survive, okay? And there's a huge caliber debate, and I don't want to get into that right now, but we're going to tell you the three popular calibers for semi-automatic pistol are 9mm, 40, and 45. And you know, there's a big caliber debate, and then the FBI switched from 9mm to 40, and they've been, you know, police officers have been carrying 45s forever. You know what? All three of them suck for killing human beings. Okay, hands down. That if you have a rifle round, you are going to do way more damage, way quicker than you are ever going to do with a pistol round. So the actual statistic, you know, and that's all encompassing. Everybody that's been shot with a pistol has an 80% survival rate. Okay, so if you're
But Matt, when I watch movies and someone shoots someone with a pistol, they just immediately die.
Right, and you know, and that's, the movies are cool, and we're not John Wick, and John Wick is absolutely phenomenal. Keanu Reeves, you know, I really applaud you for the amount of training that he got into, and how much dedication he had for that role, and everything that he's doing is very real. The techniques that he is using. Now, the 400-to-1 kill-death ratio is that's never going to happen, you know, and I don't know what the ratio is going to be, but that's what makes movies. Now, those techniques that he's using, we teach, and there's no reason that you or anybody wouldn't be better off knowing those techniques and learning how to physically defend yourself and learning how to gunfight. And you don't have, it doesn't have to change you. You're not going to turn into a cowboy. You're not going to do weird gun nut stuff if you just have that skill set. Another thing that we teach is fighting and boxing. And boxing is so key, because it's, in my opinion, that it's more important to learn how to get hit and take it than it is to learn how to give it.
Really?
And if you join a gym and you're not sparring, actively sparring, not at 100%, but if you're not actively sparring within the first few weeks, change your gym. Okay, and don't be scared. It's you know, there's headgear, there's mouthpieces, and you wear 16-ounce gloves. And yeah, it hurts. It's not the most pleasurable thing, but you're not going to have any permanent disabilities or deformities from getting punched in the face with a 16-ounce glove. And everything's relative. We're not going to put you up against a professional boxer on your first day. You're going to go against guys and girls that are doing the same thing at the same level that you are. And it's key to learn how to defend yourself.
All right, so just to kind of recap, now you're saying that, you know, run, hide, fight.
Absolutely.
Is what needs to be done. So first of all, don't be curious.
Don't be curious. Run and keep running and get behind some sort of hard cover. We don't want to run right out in the middle of the room. We want to use things that stop or redirect the flight of bullets. And bullets aren't, they do one thing. They come out of the gun and they start falling. Now, they're going very, very fast. But when they hit things, even things like drywall or computer screens, they tend to change directions, they tend to fragment, and they tend to slow down. So even if you're behind something that isn't 100% bulletproof, it's going to do you some justice by just getting behind it. Plus, it's going to give you some concealment, and maybe that shooter looks somewhere else because he doesn't see somebody actively running through the room.
Okay, so if you can't run for some reason, there's no exit, you're trapped, you're in a
Trapped.
room, then hide.
Absolutely. I want to touch on that if you can't run, okay? Now, if you're in an office building and you are in the office that's at the end of the hallway and there's no exit without going, you know, 60
Towards the
feet
gunfire.
down the hall,
Yeah.
change, fix it, put a door in, okay? It's just a building, okay? It'll cost you a little bit of money, hire a contractor, make an exit, figure it out, and then don't use that office if you know, there's no way out. And there shouldn't be. Fire code shouldn't allow that, but you know, sometimes we're in situations that present themselves like that. Your plan to do a preemptive strike, you know, figure out what would actually happen and walk through it. I mean, right here, I don't see any exits in this room. We would pretty much be screwed. Yep. And I wouldn't be in this office. And you know, especially if we were doing something that we're pissing off employees, which is probably, you know, not the right way to live.
Right.
You know, if you don't piss people off, you're probably going to increase your odds of not getting shot in the face. And I'm not saying be nice, but don't be bad in business and don't be evil to human beings. And you probably won't end up in these situations. And the same thing goes for the bullies and the Columbine. And I think before Columbine was going postal. Yeah. If you remember that. And I think that was before. And the post office back then was screwing with their employees and cutting hours and messing with retirements and doing all these things that all these people have been working for 20-something years, expecting. And when you do that to somebody, yeah, they're gonna go postal.
Yeah.
And you know,
That became a verb.
It did.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like in this room, for example, we are essentially trapped. So in this particular situation, run is not an option. We could hide.
Yes.
And see how that works. But at some point, there's a distinction between hiding and fighting, right? That's the last option, is to fight. So when do you make that decision?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And in this particular room, I would be probably hiding right next to the door. And the reason being, and I would be oriented towards the door, so when he came through the door, he had no choice but to either get blindsided by me attacking him and taking the gun out of the fight, and we can teach you how to do that, or he's going to turn and face me, where I'm going to hopefully point the gun at the window, and hopefully or at the ceiling, and hopefully I will prevail in that situation. And catching somebody off guard and surprise like that, you usually prevail, provided you have some sort of skill set, and you can gain that skill set in 6 weeks, and you can practice that skill set instead of going and lifting weights. You can